Cyber briefing for Friday the 7th of July. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny morning in the south of England today, so I hope it's nice where you are as well. Google has patched 3 actively exploited zero-day vulnerabilities in Android. So 3 vulnerabilities. CVE 2023-26083, which is a memory leak vulnerability in the Mali GPU kernel driver. CVE 2021-29256, which is the ARM Mali GPU kernel driver allowing unprivileged user to access freed memory, and 2023-2136, which is an integer overflow in Skia or Skya. So the patch is available for, let me double check, Android 10, 11, 12, 12L and 13. Android partners, Google's partners, have been notified of these issues, so hopefully if they've got their own fork of Android, they will be rolling these patches in soon. If you are on the Google version of Android, definitely look to update ASAP. These are actively being exploited now. The patches, by the way, they've also fixed I think 40 other vulnerabilities, but those vulnerabilities, the other vulnerabilities, are not actively being exploited at the moment. So you've got an Android phone, time to upgrade, patch. Cisco is warning of a high severity vulnerability in Nexus 9000 series switches that allows attackers to read or modify encrypted data. Being tracked as CVE 2023-20185, CVSS score of 7.4, so not necessarily the easiest to exploit, but it affects Nexus devices which have got the N9K X9736C-FX line card, which is basically the Nexus 9332C and the Nexus 9364C fixed spine switches, and some of the Nexus 9500 spine switches. So if your 9000 series switches have got that particular line card in, you are affected by this vulnerability. At the moment, Cisco has not released a security update patch for this flaw. The recommendation right now is that if you are using Cisco's ACI multi-site CloudSec encryption features, that you should disable that card and contact support to evaluate alternative options. So either Cisco are being Cisco and they're not going to fix things because they don't want to spend the money on it and they've got an alternative they can sell you, or it's just not fixable given the card itself. So yeah, there we are. If you've got those Nexus switches, check. If you've got that particular card in, contact Cisco to get recommendations about what you should be doing. Stackrot Linux kernel bug has exploit code on the way. So the vulnerability is CVE 2023-3269, and it affects Linux kernels 6.1 to 6.4 and gives an attacker a way to escalate privileges on affected systems. Look out for an exploit to that one. The fix for the flaw is being led by Torvalds, as you would expect. He said basically it's something we always should technically have done, as in fixed, but because we strictly didn't need it, we were being lazy. about such things. I think that is. I think that is and I admire his honesty on that. So because clearly the kernel, the kernel team are well aware of this. Expect patches ASAP, if not out already. Yeah. Oh no, there are. In fact, there are patches available. Sorry, yes. So upgrade to Linux kernels 6.5, and they are backporting the fix into kernels 6137, 6211, and 64.1. So yeah, kernel kernel vulnerabilities are an interesting one. Some organizations kind of shrug their shoulders and go, yeah, so what? It's just a kernel vulnerability. Why are you telling us about this? Well, firstly, they're as exploitable as any other vulnerability, and in fact, probably more concerning, because if you can compromise something to do with the kernel, you can then subsequently potentially compromise pretty much everything else that's going on. The kernel underpins everything else that happens on the system. So in that respect, I think they're far from being the oh yeah, whatever, it's only a kernel vulnerability approach. Should be, oh bother, we need to do something. And equally, it's not actually that hard to upgrade and patch a kernel. I mean, I agree if you're on something ancient, kernel version 4 or 5 or whatever it is, and the answer is go to version 6 point something, that could potentially give you issues if you're running legacy apps, but relatively simple to test. But if you're already on a particular stream, applying patches, minor patches rather, is just straightforward and should be being done regularly. So take kernel vulnerabilities seriously, and don't be scared of patching the kernel. It's no more scary than anything else that's out there, in my clearly not so humble opinion. China-linked spyware has been found on the Google Play Store. Yep, we've come across this before. There are a couple of apps. One is File Recovery and Data Recovery, and the other one is File Manager. They appear to be legitimate file management applications. However, they are busily collecting information: OS version numbers, device brands and models, real-time user location, network provider name, SIM provider's network code, mobile phone's country code, pictures, video and audio content, and the device's contact links. So if you have either of those from the Play Store, but they've had 2 million downloads, and as is the way, if you've previously downloaded malware onto a device, even if Google pulls it from the Play Store, they are not going to pull it from your device. So the onus is on you to keep on top of what's good and what's bad in the multitude of apps that you can end up with on a modern smartphone. So have a look at this. If you've got these apps, strong recommendation is to delete the apps before they send any more of your pickies to China. Nickelodeon have confirmed that there has been a massive data leak, and as the register says, SpongeBob fans rejoice. So it looks like there has been a leak of some of the data that's been leaked. Some of the cartoons that have been leaked apparently have never been shown. So there is interesting stuff for the fanatics, and there are a lot of fanatics out there. I would, however, say Nickelodeon are absolutely off on the digital rights stuff at the moment. So if you download these things, and if you get caught, which given the amount of effort they're putting into catching people is a distinct possibility. Be aware they're not going to play nicely. If you reshare and re-upload, expect the weight of the law, or at least the weight of their solicitors, to descend rapidly upon you. So be careful with this stuff. You would never think that SpongeBob would be the cause of so much legal wrangling, but in the background, yeah, they, as it says in the article in the Register, Nickelodeon has deep pockets and lawyers at its disposal. So yeah, watch out for that one. Right, and finally from me, there are a couple of articles regarding AI. So AI scams. There's a warning that AI voice scams are there has been a significant uptick in AI voice scams. The way this works is, you can provide AI tools with a relatively small snippet of somebody's recorded voice, as in something that you might lift off social media, little clips, things on TikTok, Instagram, anything where they can get a little bit of your voice. That sort of length is perfectly okay. AI can then very realistically mimic that particular voice, and good enough to fool friends and relatives. So the scam is basically you get a phone call, an alleged phone call, from a relative or a close friend or whatever it may be, saying that they're in some or other sort of trouble, and can you please give them some money? Which, let's be honest, if somebody were to if somebody were to phone me up and say, actually no, I wouldn't fall for that one, because that would be so unlikely. I was going to say, if one of my daughters had phoned me up asking for money, apart from saying that's not a surprise, it would be, as usual, I probably haven't got any to give you. So there we go. But you know what I mean? It's like people are going to fall for these things. And I would say especially people that are less savvy to the risks associated to some of the AI tooling that's coming out are quite likely to fall for this sort of stuff. So recommendations. So be cautious of unsolicited offers, requests, and calls. I'm not sure that's a very good piece of recommendation if we're talking about somebody who's mimicking the voice of somebody you know very well. So, okay, but generally good. You could always verify identities by having a family password. I can't quite see that one taking off. Well, certainly not in large numbers. So, hello, daughter. What's the password of the day? Right, no, that's not going to go, is it? So, using strong cybersecurity practices in general. I mean, this is good, regardless of this particular fraud. Using things like strong passwords, multi-factor authentications, VPNs. Basic stuff. Is very, I think it's very important. Protect and keep an eye on your personal information. I agree with that. And educating friends and family on the latest scams is also, I think, a very useful thing to do. I would also say, if you get a phone call like that with saying, "Oh, it's your daughter. I'm in trouble. Send me some money," you almost definitely know what their real bank account is. So transfer the money to the real bank account. If they say, "Oh, could you just transfer it to somebody else or some other? I can't access my account. Could you send it to my friend's account?" sort of thing. Well, that should set off all sorts of alarm bells. And I suspect, as with all things AI, if you engage long enough, you'll eventually work out that it is AI. ChatGPT, after, I think, didn't they limit? I think at one point they limited conversations to 15 minutes, because once you got beyond that, the likelihood that community was going to just go off on one and start talking about all sorts of weird stuff, was significantly higher. So use common sense to work out whether you're talking to somebody you really know, or whether it's just some random bit of AI trying to scam you. And then finally, another thing to do with AI. Unfortunately, the only article I could find about this is behind a paywall at the Telegraph. However, undoubtedly, it will find its way into the normal cyber news fairly quickly. But there are I bring it to people's attention because it is I think firstly it is quite a well done scam, and secondly it is focused on people that are very likely to fall for this stuff. So scammers are using an AI generated deep fake video of as they say, trusted consumer champion Martin Lewis. So Martin Lewis runs the Money Saving Expert site and is very well known in the financial advice world. So if you, I think most people would have come across him. Most people would have come across Money Saving Expert. So generally, very solid advice. Very the real stuff that comes from Martin Lewis is good, honest, and trying to help people. However, a very convincing AI fake is doing the rounds at the moment, which is trying to persuade people to put money into something to do with Elon's Tesla stuff. Somebody that doesn't really matter. What matters is that if you do invest in this or whatever, you are giving money away to scammers. So I would say be very careful. If you see a video going around that talks about Martin Lewis recommending something to do with Elon Musk's new project, just be careful. Make sure that you check out whether this is real or not. Use the usual sorts of ways. Try to get some confirmation that it actually is. At the moment, it is likely to be a deep fake. However, it is equally problematic, because if in the future Martin does want to recommend something, which he may well do, that is related to some project that Elon's come up with, then you can see that we can have all sorts of ongoing problems related to this. So watch out for that one. But it is another indication of how AI deep fakes are going to become increasingly used to spread disinformation and criminal activity. And until we work out how to identify things which are AI generated, I think it's going to seriously dent people's trust in what they see online. And I also think that's probably a good thing. So that is all from me for today. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will definitely this time be back on Monday morning. Bye-bye.